If someone knocks on your door at midnight, who do you think it is? Some people say they'd open the door, while others swear they would never do that. How about you? What would you do? Well, today I'll tell you a tale of a man who opened his front door in the dead of night. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to my channel. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more updates. Don't forget to click on the bell notification so you won't miss any of our videos. Let's get started. She had no children and spent most of her time creating handicrafts. Her days were peaceful and uneventful. However, as night fell, everything changed. This time, a figure emerged from the darkness. Startled, Benny dropped her knife. She told him to sit down and rest while she went inside to prepare some food for him. She had become more independent and no longer needed anyone to provide for her. Before long, they were both weaving side by side, and Benny taught him new techniques, explaining how to make different types of knots and patterns. The man sat beside her, watching as she worked. And although he didn't speak, his presence was a comfort to her. For the first time in a long time, Benny didn't feel alone. The room was filled with sunlight and birds were singing outside. She sat up in bed and noticed that the man was sitting beside her, looking at her intently. He told her that he had come back to repay her kindness and offered to give her a gift. Ask for anything, he said, and I will grant it. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Benny couldn't think of anything she wanted more than for the man to be happy. She wished for him to find peace and move on to the afterlife. The man smiled and thanked her for her generosity. He told her that he was grateful for her kindness and friendship and that she had given him hope to move on. With that, he vanished, leaving Benny alone in the room. She had someone to talk to, even if he couldn't respond. The man was eager to learn and quickly picked up the skills, and they spent many hours working together in silence. Startled, Benny turned to him and saw that his body was glowing. Terrified, she stumbled backwards, knocking over her stool. But before she could run away, the man's spirit enveloped her and she lost consciousness. The man refused at first, but eventually accepted her offer. After eating, Benny led the man to her loom where she showed him how to weave a net. She continued to weave her crafts during the day, but now she wasn't afraid of the night. Also, please leave a comment in the comment section below. We really appreciate your feedback. And finally, please share this video with your family and friends. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more updates. She knew that the man was at peace and that his spirit was no longer bound to the drum. She often thought of him and the time they had spent together, and she cherished the memory of her friend. Intrigued by the process, he watched patiently as she demonstrated. Then she gave him a piece of wood and a spindle and asked him to try weaving on his own. He picked up the tools and began following her instructions, and soon he was creating his own net. The figure slowly came into view, and it turned out to be the missing villager who had taken his own life. He looked different, however, and asked, "Did you call me?" Startled, Benny managed to stammer out, why did you kill yourself?" "You're still alive." The man looked confused and asked, "What do you mean?" "I'm dead." Then he explained to her what had happened. He told her that after taking his life, he became a spirit bound to the drum and forced to play it every night, which made the other villagers crazy. He had been trying to stop the noise, but he couldn't. When he heard Benny's voice, he thought someone else had come to harm him, and that is why he didn't reveal himself right away. She knew that if she didn't do something, the next person to die would be her neighbor. So she formulated a plan. Every night when the clock tower in the city struck midnight, strange sounds could be heard throughout the village. Dogs barked loudly, horses neighed, and cats meowed incessantly. But the strangest sound was the drumming. She led the man to her stove where she prepared some tea, and they talked about their lives before he died. He told her about his wife and children and the work he had done in the village. As they talked, Benny felt a sense of connection with him, and she realized that even though he was a spirit, he was still human. He had feelings and memories just like anyone else. It seemed as though invisible hands were beating on an enormous drum, creating a haunting rhythm that echoed through the night. Every day, Benny sat in her house in the village and wove mats, baskets, and fishing nets. The villagers were deeply troubled by these nocturnal sounds. They tried everything to stop them, but nothing worked as the nights went on. The drumming grew louder and more insistent, keeping the villagers awake and terrified eventually. The relentless noise drove one of the villagers insane. Instead of cowering in fear, she grabbed a knife and cut open the skin of her drum. Then, holding the knife aloft, she stepped outside her house and called out, "Whoever is making all this noise, show yourself." Suddenly, the drumming stopped a moment later. She heard footsteps approaching her house. She listened intently and then called out again, "Whoever is there, show yourself." The footsteps came to a halt and a voice replied, "I am coming." With that, Benny waited patiently. He couldn't take the incessant drumming anymore, so he took his own life. After hearing this story, Benny decided she had to find out what was making the noise once and for all. That fateful night, just as the clock tower chimed midnight, Benny heard the familiar sound of drums. A few minutes later, she heard the sound of footsteps again, and she repeated her command, "Whoever is there, show yourself." After listening to his story, Benny felt sorry for him and promised to help. As he worked, Benny explained to him how much her days had changed since she had learned to weave. As the sun began to set, Benny suggested that they take a break. When the conversation ended, Benny returned to her loom and continued weaving. As the night wore on, the man grew weaker and weaker until finally he closed his eyes and fell asleep. Benny woke up the next morning feeling refreshed and full of energy. From that day on, the drumming in the night ceased and Benny lived in peace. So friends, that's the story of today. If you like such stories, don't forget to subscribe so that you can be notified whenever we upload a new video.